Calm the Tongue, Silence the Mind by Trevor McGrath. In this video, I'll be covering my view on what I personally see to be the unexpected doorway to thoughtless meditation or mental silence. I'm in no way claiming this method is the only way to reach a state of transcendental meditation. This is just a method that works best for me. What if I said there's a very simple way to put your thoughts and your physical body to sleep while remaining aware? I have found an approach that works for me almost without fail. What if I said it has everything to do with the tongue? And though it would be a good guess to figure I'm talking about the Ketri Mudra, this is something different. Instead of pressing the tongue to the roof, I found that relaxing it slightly back can have a different and equally profound effect. The tongue is the key point in this whole video, but to put it in an understandable context, some things need to be stated first. There are various forms of meditation, all of which are equally valid. Often people feel they can't meditate because they can't shut off their mind, but the meditative state of zero thought is only one form of meditation. The mind still exists when there are no thoughts running through it. It's fair to say that the mind is that of the womb from which thoughts are born. And how do we interpret thoughts? Through the language we speak. Therefore, if we can turn off the language or languages we speak, we can turn off the whole thought stream. This is where the tongue comes into play. The tongue forms spoken language. In certain languages other than English, we can see that the word for tongue is phonetically similar to the word language. Scientists have found that the tongue makes micro-movements in accordance to inner dialogue, meaning your tongue moves according to the words in your head, just in such a subtle way that it's generally unnoticeable. But this is good to know as it can be reverse engineered. We can relax the tongue and shut off the inner dialogue. But how to relax the tongue? The answer to this question could be a gem. After all, relaxing the tongue can be seen as lowering the drawbridge between the head and heart, so the two can communicate in heart-brain coherence. The tongue for many can feel near impossible to relax and will due to the degree of mental chatter and several other varying factors. However, there are ways and backdoors approaches to relaxing it nonetheless. If you can stimulate the deeper reaches of the tongue towards the back of the throat, the whole thing seems to relax after a while. If you breathe like how people breathe when they're asleep, then you can put the body and thoughts to sleep and enter a state of pure being, sheer observation. A state of zero thought. This is akin to the ego being asleep. Imagine how someone sounds when they are asleep. They generally breathe gently, and the sound is anything from a gentle breath to a full-blown snore. In this practice, we're shooting for a breath that's about halfway between a gentle breath and a snore. You should be able to hear the breath and feel it on your tongue in the back of your throat on both the inhale and exhale. If you softly inhale and exhale to end from the back of the throat, you will create that airy breath feeling on the back of the tongue, which can relax the whole tongue after a certain amount of breaths. Despite what people say about mouth breathing, this particular meditation works best when your inhales and exhales take place through both the nose and mouth simultaneously. But the main point is to repetitively stimulate that breathy feeling on the back of the throat with each breath you take. The mind will likely wander, but keep pulling focus back to that feeling on the back of the tongue. That's your whole focus in this meditation. It's a paradox because it's the act of focusing on one thing with the end result being the complete dissolving of focus. Each inhale and exhale goes to and from that area of the back of the tongue, and after a period of time is successful, your inner dialogue can turn completely off and your body will go to sleep while your awareness remains as conscious as it is during the waking state. This is the state of the infinite zero, the all and nothing. One day, while meditating on a microdose of psilocybin, my intention in the meditation was to find out how psilocybin affects the human body in a therapeutic way that we can recreate willingly without having to use psilocybin to initiate such benefits. Not long after I started, I noticed how stiff and tense my tongue was. I had never noticed it like that before, and even days after that meditation, I couldn't unnotice it. It became such a prominent sensation that I couldn't drown it out. The more I became aware of it, the more I realized my tongue had been that tense for as long as I could remember. Sometimes we don't notice tension until it starts thawing out, and I figure the psilocybin helped it thaw out just enough for me to notice. Tension or swelling of the tongue is a common response to fear. In regards to trauma, the swelling can become a chronic or reoccurring circumstance until the source of that trauma is resolved. I noticed at one point that the more anxious I was with racing thoughts, the more tense it would get. The degree of tension is a result of the tongue making a rapid amount of micro movements in accordance to a large amount of inner dialogue. It's a highly unrecognized form of sensory overload. The tongue, along with the eyes, the jaw, and the facial muscles are all neurologically interactive with the amygdala. When the amygdala is calm, the body enters a state of parasympathetic activity, where it rejuvenates and heals itself in the ways it knows how to. The activation of the parasympathetic nervous system is the off switch to the fight, flight, and freeze mode we know of as the sympathetic nervous system. So relaxation of the tongue, jaw, eyes, and face can directly relax the amygdala. One could simply relax the tongue and the rest of the anatomical chain reaction would follow, causing us to enter self-regeneration mode. For those of you who are into spiritual embodiment and Gnosticism, this concept can reflect in the way that the human body is the grail and the amygdala is Magdala or Magdalene, the feminine healer. The domino effect set off by simply breathing the tongue into relaxation results in energy being able to discharge. This is otherwise simplified as the act of grounding. This not only decreases physical inflammation over time, but can help us embody our energy instead of keeping it stored in the head as a kundalini buildup. Pressure bust pipes. Ideally, energy is circulated instead of remaining built up and contained in one central location of the body. One way you can see it is that the relaxation of the tongue is that of pressing the kettle lever, allowing the water to pour out. This practice helps U.S. release, whereas the Khechri Mudra calls for us to press our tongue up and creates a charge. Both are valid. One is just a more energetically feminine form of using the tongue in embodiment techniques. The Khechri Mudra, though somewhat relaxing, seems to be more of an active or sympathetic mode of charge that stimulates, whereas this approach is more geared towards a parasympathetic mode of discharge and release. It's also worth noting that the neural connection between the tongue and the reptilian brainstem is strong and directly expressive of our most primitive needs and motives, swallowing, breathing, and eating. This likely brings to mind how serpents sense their prey with their tongue. Therefore, relaxing the tongue can turn off our reptilian primitive fear-driven impulse to scrap for survival and, in turn, assist us in transcending anxiety, panic, racing thoughts, and inner dialogue for as long as we repeat the breathing technique previously mentioned. course, we need to return and have access to our primitive-driven survival instincts, but not to the degree at which most experience. Survival mode has become predominant to the psyche over time, to the point where fight or flight mode just seems like the human condition. But it doesn't have to be. There are various forms of self-mastery and spiritual embodiment that can assist us in transmuting our experience of the human condition. It's said that Babylon is a state where language divides mankind. So perhaps heaven on earth is when we practice giving the tongue a rest, not just from vocalizing, but also from the tension expressed by our inner dialogue. Perhaps this makes it all too clear as to why monks take vows of silence for certain periods of time. In closing, I found another method while experimenting with this concept, a form of mental imagery. After settling into meditation, imagine the space behind the back of your neck. Travel to that space and feel that space back there with your mind. Put all of your awareness behind your neck, and if your attention wanders, just keep putting it back there while doing the sleep breath mentioned earlier. You can, of course, imagine anything you need in order to keep your attention back there. The only real point is that your attention is behind your neck and your tongue is relaxing and falling towards and backward slightly. The benefits of reaching a state of zero mind are countless due to the fact that it's a factory reset to the mind, body, and emotions. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe and look through my YouTube channel where I upload audio that helps facilitate different meditative and therapeutic states. Thank you for watching.